Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 4th edition of Call the Shots, Female Power Through Film. My name is Mara Cataldi, and I'm the Director of Operations of ICFF. When I founded Call the Shots, Female Power Through Film back in 2018, I wanted to create an event that gives voice to successful women to empower and inspire other women. We want the women to have the support of each other, as well as developing a network for them to share experience and knowledge. We believe that the stronger the network of women, the better the chance of success. Unlike many other initiatives focused on female empowerment, which are incredibly important on their own rights, Call the Shots, Female Power Through Film is unique. With my team, every year, we are selecting a different thematic, not strictly related to matters regarding women. In the previous edition, in fact, we spoke about immigration, education, entrepreneurship, and storytelling. For us, what is important is to highlight on stage the perspective of women who have achieved great success and became experts in their respective fields. This year's edition looks very different from the rest. As traditionally each year, this event will fill up to 550 seats at the TIFF Bell Live Box, and I truly miss the sense of fulfillment as seeing a full house, and of course, of being here with all of you. But this year, thanks to our digital platform, we are able to bring the celebration of women to even more Canadians across the country. But before we get into this year's event, let's watch the highlights of the last 3 editions of these inspiring celebrations.
Congratulations and happy International Women's Day, and thank you for all the contributions that you do and bring to the province of Ontario and the changes that you bring in the world.
I want to say that events such as this one were exactly what we had in mind at the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration.
The most important thing to do with young women is not make them feel like they're any different, that they're the same or better, actually, than their peers. They have to be encouraged to perform at the best possible way that they can.
I just want you to know, the women are out there. They're not, and a lot of the greatest directors I've worked with in television who are female were former script supervisors. So it's just a matter of the industry finally gave them a break.
You see that women are now held up in a certain way where people admire them. And so I do believe we've made strides.
I think that we will see a lot more of equal numbers of men and women in the industry.
We're in a great opportunity right now where women are being asked about what stories they want to tell, and they're being solicited into the room.
I'm constantly learning. I always try to surround myself with people who are better than me.
I love where we are, but we can't stop where we are. We need to keep moving forward.
I think we're just getting started, and I don't think we've seen anything yet.
This year's theme is Women in Uniform. Blue is the new pink, and it honors and celebrates women in the protective and public service industry through the areas of law enforcement, firefighting, and the Navy military. This panel discussion precedes the presentation of the first episode from the TV series Petra, directed by Maria Sole Tognazzi, and which is based on the famous female detective Petra Delicado. This series truly reflects the strong-willed women of our Call the Shots panels, who you are about to meet, and who, like Petra, dedicate every day of their life to the well-being and safety of the public. But now, without further ado, I would like to welcome on our virtual stage ICFF Artistic Director as well as journalist for RAI, the Italian National Television, Cristiano De Florentis, and our Coordinator of Cultural Programs, Tonia Serra-Soppelsa, who will direct the panel discussion.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. This year, as you said, like previous years, the ICFF Call the Shots event comes to you via your computer, your televisions. The present world health crisis we find ourselves in prevents us from meeting in person. It is a shame. Hopefully we'll come back soon in a theater. This, however, does not preclude our meeting with you to share, discuss, and inform.
Buonasera. This year, as in previous years, our objective in celebrating Women's Day is to advance recognition and representation of women in all facets of society, while at the same time strengthening our own community by captivating and engaging audiences, cultivating new cinephiles, providing educational opportunities, and celebrating our collective humanity through the art of film.
So we will continue to work with our partners, our sponsors in advancing this mission. We hope that you are all well and staying safe. This evening, in that regard, we propose a discussion with 4 women who have made it their life's work to keep us all safe. In the past 3 decades, while the Canadian employment rate for women has risen substantially, protective services careers, including law enforcement, firefighters, military, and Navy, could benefit from increasing gender diversity.
Being a woman in law enforcement, firefighting, or Navy military service has no doubt many challenges. Women in these fields are often dissuaded from applying for leadership positions for many reasons. There is still a lot of work to do in terms of reaching gender parity in public safety jobs. Despite these gaps, it is important for women to join these fields in part to inspire young women. Women have a vital role to play in public safety. Not only do women bring a wealth of experiences to these roles that benefits the community, but young girls who want to be in these careers need role models to look up to. It is what we hope to hear this evening from our 4 panelists, the reasons why more women do not join these ranks, and of course, we definitely need words of encouragement. Thank you, ladies, for being with us this evening.
So now we have a video bio for each panelist. We start with Shanna Coxon, Deputy Chief of Toronto Police.
Deputy Shanna Coxon has dedicated over 24 years of service to the Toronto Police and has been the executive sponsor of numerous innovative projects in the police force. Deputy Coxon has a passion for policing, innovation, technology, and futurism. Many of her advances are novel as she seeks to reshape the role of police toward a community-centric, trusted community partner.
And now I think that we have Kelly Williamson, Commander Director Public Affairs at Royal Canadian Navy.
Commander Kelly Williamson has served in many positions within the Royal Canadian Navy and Canadian Armed Forces. She was invested into the Order of Military Merit in 2019 and was awarded a Commander Royal Canadian Navy Commendation in 2020. Commander Williamson is committed to raising awareness of issues related to diversity and inclusion and is a trusted leader who has served Canada with distinction.
Our next video is of Fire Chief and Director, Emergency Management, Darren Rizzi from Mississauga.
Chief Rizzi has served on the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs Board of Directors, and she has also chaired the Human Relations Committee for the International Association of Fire Chiefs. Chief Rizzi's experience in the field has equipped her with the strong critical thinking and interpersonal skills she needs in order to breathe innovation, modernization, and efficiency into her works of service.
Virginia Haxon, Chair of the Regional Municipality of York Police Services Board.
Mayor Virginia Haxon is the 6th mayor of East Gwillimbury and only the 2nd woman to hold this position since 1970. She is currently serving as chair of the board for the York Regional Police Services since being elected in 2017. Mayor Haxon also serves on the York Regional Council and has been recognized for her significant contributions and continuous improvement to her community.
So an incredible panel. Ladies, we extend a warm welcome to you this evening and we salute you. Maria Sole Tognazzi, the director of our feature presentation this evening, titled Petra, as Mara was mentioning, has said how she ventured into the project for the mere pleasure of narrating a female protagonist who is so unconventional and free that she cares little about the judgment of others or how to live her life. You yourself, how chosen a career that is often still judged as being atypical for a woman, Tell us about this. What was it? Was a free personal choice, and or do you ever feel concerns regarding the judgment of others? Ms. Coxon.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. In terms of a free choice, I have an interesting story because I grew up with a single mom and it was just the two of us. And every interaction I had ever had with police was quite negative, actually. So when I say this was a free choice, it was, but it was an unconventional choice. I actually joined the job because a friend of mine really wanted to get on and convinced me to go with her to the hiring process. And so I came to support her, and they wound up hiring me and not her, which is another long story, but she became a teacher, which was her lifelong dream. So it all worked out as it should. So I think choice is interesting because sometimes we do things that surprise even ourselves. And I've often said that this job has been the love of a lifetime for me and that I almost missed it. And I always encourage those who may not have thought about policing as a career to join because, again, you don't want to be suspended by what you think is the right thing to do in terms of choice. And in terms of just looking at who you see in the space, who you can look up to and identify with. And certainly I didn't have very many people that I could when I joined the job. So those are my thoughts on joining an unconventional job and really, really loving where I've landed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Williamson.
Thanks very much as well. I'm really pleased to join everyone and to be with such a great panel this evening. And so when it came, I guess just thinking back to the early days and when I began my career, I was lucky enough. I actually had a role model. My aunt was an officer in the Canadian Armed Forces, and it was actually her who suggested that I should try. Now, it's actually really interesting because I came from a completely different environment than the military. I actually went to a high school for performing arts. So the military was not at all on my radar, but I was great at sports. I played rugby and volleyball. I loved to travel. I had a bit of an adventurous side, and I'm so thankful that I had that role model in my life who suggested this as a potential opportunity for me. When I first joined the Navy, I joined as a naval warfare officer. Those are the primary leaders on board our Canadian warships. And it was a great learning experience. I learned a lot about myself and teamwork and the importance of working together to accomplish a goal. And I subsequently, 10 years later, transitioned. I became a public affairs officer. And again, that just opened a whole new world of opportunities. And thanks to my career in the Canadian Armed Forces, I've been to Afghanistan, Haiti, and Nepal, and West Africa. And just the opportunity to engage with people in those different regions and countries in the world has been incredible. So again, an unconventional choice, but one very much worth the while. And to be honest, it was something I wanted for myself once that opportunity was put on my radar. And it's just with such pride that I serve Canada today in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Thank you. We have now Ms. Rizzi with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. So in terms of my journey, I started off as a teacher. My parents were teachers. My older sister was a teacher. And so that ultimately was the direction that I traveled in. Within my second year of teaching, I realized that that wasn't necessarily the career for me. And I was swimming with a master swim team. One of the swimmers happened to be a firefighter, and he suggested that I try to compete to become either a firefighter or a police officer. And because I had a background in athletics, I was both on a provincial and a national team. I thought that that might be a better career choice for me because it would integrate physical fitness into, the things that I would do day to day. I was very fortunate to be hired by the Vaughan Fire and Rescue Service. And ultimately, I just started moving up the ranks in the fire service. I absolutely loved it. So it was never that I was a child playing with shiny red trucks. I never thought I was going to be a firefighter. Certainly, I don't think I ever, had that in my head when I was a child that I would become a fire chief. But certainly you follow your passion, you follow your dreams, and I enjoy going to work every single day. So when you take a look at what the protagonist said, it says she cares little about the judgment of others or how she lives her life. Certainly I care a lot about what my team thinks about myself as a leader with the Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services. I hope that they believe that I'm a good leader, that I advocate for them, that I keep them safe. And also I care very much what the community thinks. I hope that they think I'm knowledgeable and I understand the technical requirements of my career choice, and also that I advocate for their safety. But in terms of the protagonist, when she says, I care a little about how I live my life, certainly as a woman, and prioritizing my work every single day. Our operations go 24/7. Every single day there are emergency incidents that we get involved in, and certainly I would believe that I fall in line with that protagonist in that I don't feel I need to necessarily identify why I've made certain decisions. I think it's because I value our organization and the work that we do.
Thank you for sharing, Ms. Rizzi. Now it's turn of Ms. Axon.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. I started working in municipal environment 30 years ago as an employee in education and recreation, and decided that when a school board trustee position came available that I would apply for it. And so I spent 7 years as a school board trustee in our community, and I kind of got the bite for politics a little bit and decided that town council might be an interesting next step. I ran, was successful the first time, and so I was for 10 years as a councillor. As it happened, our mayor was moving on, and I ran, and I was successful in that. So I've been the mayor for 10 years now. And when you're the mayor in York Region, you also are a member of the York Regional Council. Council oversees many activities throughout the region, and one of them is the Police Services Board. 9 years ago, I was appointed to the Police Services Board, had an interest in policing and watching what was going on as an overseeing body. And shortly thereafter, there were some changes in the board. People were retired, and I became the vice chair, and hence am now the chair of the Police Services Board. And a very interesting path, and I'm loving what I'm doing.
Thank you. Thank you. These are such wonderful and varied experiences that you tell us about. Thank you all for sharing. Let's now go back to Deputy Chief of Toronto Police, Shauna Coxon. A woman in the police force is usually considered to be hard and resolute as a person, someone who does not succumb to the judgment of others. So is this a societal bias, do you think?
I do. I think it's societal bias, and I think it's changing over time. And I remind people that the skills that women are particularly good at. I mean, we're here tonight talking about film. We're talking about artistic endeavors. They actually intertwine really well with policing. My best friend is an artist, and the reason for that is we're both fascinated with how people feel, the psychology of what makes people do and think the way they do. And nobody's going to confess to you or share with you something very difficult they've been through as a victim unless you're able to create real, authentic connection. And then in terms of getting into leadership, it's the same. You have to have that real, authentic connection with people. So, the ability to have that EQ really is critical in today's policing world. It's the opposite of the societal bias of being hard and resolute. But I think now society is slowly starting to recognize that. We're starting to see some of that in film and other genres. And I think that's an amazing thing because we're just getting started in what it is that we're able to do. Thank you.
And thank goodness for that. That's wonderful to hear. As a young woman, do you remember sharing with your family and friends what your plans were as far as a career? Were you, for example, encouraged or discouraged from, let's say, from following your dream?
So I can tell you that I had a different dream every week. I was one of those people that could not decide, which is why policing is so great because every day is completely different. I was very interested in being an artist. I actually, in addition to going to university, I took photography classes at the same time, and I've had photography exhibits across Canada. And that's why I really do think about the intersection between art and other spaces like policing, where that connection is so important. My mom was extremely encouraging of whatever I wanted to do, but with a caveat. As a single mother who struggled for many years to raise me on her own, she was always like, okay, you need to make money. So however you do it, that's up to you, but you need to find a way where at least you have enough money to be safe, to make sure that you have food and heat and the things that are required. And so we often had those discussions, and she was very pragmatic, and I appreciated that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Coxon. So now, Commander Kelly Williamson, when we see someone in uniform, we all form an opinion on who that person is and represents. What does it mean for you to wear the uniform that you're wearing today?
Oh, for me, it's an absolute honor and such a privilege to wear the uniform of my country. I can't tell you the amount of pride I have in it. And I think all of that stems from the fact that I work with so many other amazing human beings. I think when people see the uniform, there's a gut reaction. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. And that's completely understandable in both situations. But I think the biggest misnomer is that people who wear uniforms are like gray men or women, that they're just part of a big machine, that they're not thinking, feeling human beings. And I think that's the biggest misconception that I want to sort of help tamp down. I want people to know that people who wear the uniform are artistic, just like Deputy Chief Coxon mentioned. I have a friend who's a phenomenal visual artist, and I have others who are incredible singers. And people who wear this uniform care deeply about their community. They decide to wear the uniform because they want to make a difference. They want to engage. They want to help. And so that's what wearing the uniform means to me. And we want to reflect the society that we represent, which is why diversity and inclusion are so important. And yes, at times, the large institutions seem to struggle, but bit by bit, we're getting there. We're seeing more women enter these various domains. We're seeing more people from underrepresented minority communities enter, and it's a reality. It will take time, but those people will ascend to positions of leadership and then start to normalize some of the issues that we see. So again, it takes time, but we will get there. And so that is why I'm proud to wear the uniform I wear today.
So since that blue is becoming really the new pink for you. So what was it like to become part of this workforce as a female commander? And do you feel a responsibility to be an example for other women?
Absolutely. I think it's a huge responsibility. Now, thankfully, there are a number of women who came before me, and so I'm not the first. I have the privilege of being sort of the middle of the pack, because the women who really were the first are the ones who had to overcome a number of challenges. I think for me and for women of my generation, the real struggle is breaking down those perceptions on what leadership is in a very male-dominated industry. In my the first 10 years I spent in the Canadian Armed Forces, when I was one of the primary leaders on board a warship, I thought I had to be a type A. I thought I had to exude very masculine qualities, and I didn't necessarily like the person that I felt I was becoming, because at the end of the day, I'm a very positive, very enthusiastic, very bubbly person. So I kind of took some time. I stepped back and just sort of realized the power that is owning your authentic self, and how much more I could bring to the team when I acknowledged who I really was. And I think that's what today's women sort of need to sort of realize, is all of those incredible skills, talents, and traits that we possess, that those are actually leadership qualities too. And it's important that we own them and we put them to the test so that we can be role models for those who come after us as well.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. That's wonderful to hear. Chief Darren Ritzie, thank you, first of all. It's a pleasure to have you with us this evening. I'm going to quote something to you. A woman in uniform is more reassuring, unquote. This is claimed with an undertone of irony, I might add, by our Inspector Petra in the ICFF TV series presentation that is going on this evening. So what do you think of this statement? Is this some kind of preconceived notion? And if it is, why is that?
So I guess the statement is a little divisive, and I'm a little concerned about the statement, just because if you take a look at the fire service, the underlying theme of the fire service is service excellence. So I would believe that anyone in the uniform is providing people with what they need when they need it, always. So the uniform, I think, is very symbolic. It symbolizes caring, compassion, trustworthy, helpful. And so in the fire service, I think it's the uniform and the fire truck coming to an emergency incident. That's what symbolizes public service in our world. And I would also suggest that when we go to a fire, it's someone in bunker gear, it's someone in a helmet, and someone in our we call it an SCBA, that is willing to put their life on the line for someone else. And that doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. So certainly I think anyone in a uniform in the fire service is deemed as a competent individual and there to help someone in their often worst day of their life.
Thank you. In Canada, only 3% of fire services are women, 3%. To what extent was your career choice conditioned by, let's say, your character, or perhaps courage, or simply by instinct?
I think I'm going to follow Commander Williamson. She talked earlier this evening about just being adventurous and wanting to try something new and following a passion. And certainly I have to say, I am unlike many of my colleagues in that I really had not a lot of idea what a firefighter did on my first day of recruit class. Certainly I had seen television shows, so my only exposure to the fire service was through that. But certainly, I followed a path of something that interests me, and it's brought me to this place. And I think it's just because I fell in love with the fire service. I fell in love with that concept of public service, of helping others, of teamwork, and that's why I'm here today.
Thank you, Ms. Darin. Mayor Virginia. The profession in police has always been male-dominated and often sexist. Now that there are more and more women in this field, how do you think this profession per se has changed And that is how has the increased number of females changed this line of work, if it changed or not? What do you think?
Well, it certainly didn't happen overnight. It's been a very slow, gradual change for the police services. But you're correct that for many, many years it was dominated by male, and then when females were originally hired, they were given tasks that were very different to what the male counterparts would have, and they worked very hard at it, but it was a very different setup. Now we find that the hires that come in are taking areas or working in areas that were only men many years ago, and it has changed dramatically. Women have the strength and the intelligence to do it, and I think the softer part of a woman in some situations in dealing with people who are in crisis, as someone said earlier, the worst day of their lives sometimes, that women have a more nurturing area to them to be able to work with people who are really in distress. So it's changed. It's very different than it was. I think once men in the police services saw that women could do the job, things changed dramatically.
Okay, so as a chair of the York Police Service Board, do you think that being a woman proves to be an added benefit in the public service industry? It seems that by your answer is yes.
Yes, I do for sure. I believe that our hiring process has changed over the years. I've seen quite a difference in not only the numbers of ladies that are now recruited, ladies that are mentored through their training process, and the jobs that they are being assigned to are very different now than they were at one time. It used to be that it might be domestic violence or some family issues and whatever, and now we're seeing them dealing with our dogs along the way, that they are very important with that, as well as a number of areas that never would have been considered not that long ago.
Thank you.
The ICFF wishes to thank you all, ladies, for being with us and sharing this evening, for your inspiring and very informative stories. What can I say? We salute you for your remarkable achievements. Thank you so much.
And now it's time to wrap up this inspiring discussion. Through this event, our goal is to encourage the younger female generation to consider a career in the law enforcement, the Navy, fire, or even the military. We want to encourage young women to believe that a career in the protective and public services and proud in wearing a uniform can be their future careers. We as a community, as a friends, as a family member, need to be open-minded to erase the conception that this career path is a non-traditional choice. It's important to shine a positive light on women such as our panelists, successful women in uniform, who have made a real difference to our community and its safety and well-being, and how can be role models and superheroes for the girls of today and the future. Enjoy your movie now.